Reporting to the media this week at Post Executive Council Media Briefing is the Chief Secretary of the London and the Secretary of the Division of Education, Youth Affairs and Sport, Assemblyman Hughie Cadet.
We'd want to extend congratulations as a division to the recent scholarship winners. I think, of course, some of that information would have been out there in terms of Cape. The Tobago and, of course, Bishop's High School would have received 8 scholarships, 2 open scholarships in the subject of natural sciences, and 6 additional scholarships, 1 in language, 1 in mathematics, and 4 in natural sciences. And, of course, some of this information would have been out in media for, but, of course, on behalf of the division, we would want to extend congratulations to the individuals and, of course, to the principal, staff, and teachers at Bishop's High School for this achievement for this year. And, of course, we look forward as a division to continuing to provide support to ensure that in the coming year ahead, we can see even more scholarships being awarded to Tobagonians. I also want to speak to some other results as it relates to Cape, and some placements by students from Tobago. In information technology, Unit 2, a student from Scarborough Secondary School would have placed second in the region. We would have also had in the subject area of geometrical and mechanical engineering, Unit 1, as another student from Scarborough Secondary would have placed 5th in the region. And in the area of, again, geometrical and mechanical engineering, Unit 1, another student from Scarborough Secondary would have placed 8th in this regionally. In the area of, at Bishop's High School, we would have had 2 regional, very good placements regionally. 1 in applied mathematics, Unit 2, we would have had a 1st place regionally, and a 7th place in physics, Unit 2. Again, we'd want to extend our congratulations to the individuals, and that information in terms of those individuals would be furnished very shortly, as we'd want to ensure that the school and the students themselves are fully aware. But again, just to repeat, regionally we would have had a 2nd place in information technology at Scarborough Secondary, a 5th place in geometrical and mechanical engineering, and 8th place in geometrical and mechanical engineering. And at Bishop's High School, we would have gotten a 1st place in applied mathematics and a 7th place in physics. We also, again, at Scarborough Secondary, we would have received an 8th place in music general at CSEC, at the CSEC level. So we again extend congratulations to all the students who were successful in these achievements, and of course commendations to the varying teachers at both high schools for their continued efforts to ensure that our young people are well prepared and can make these kinds of achievements, not only within the Tobago context and nationally, but of course regionally. Of course, you would be aware that, moving on, that the month of October is annually celebrated as Teachers Month, with World Teachers Day being held on October 5th. The division, of course, would have played a role in supporting a number of activities held during the month, including the Tutor Teachers Convention. We also would have, on Saturday, 25th October, held our annual Teachers Retirees Function and Appreciation Function, where under the theme Pillars of Society, and this year the division would have honored 21 teachers for their hard work and dedication over the years. The sum total of all the persons who would have retired this year is somewhere in the vicinity of 1,000 years of service. And as a division, and of course on behalf of all of Tobago, we welcome and we want to thank especially each one of them for the service that they would have given to our young people and children over the years to ensure that all of us are where we are today. I also just want to provide an update on our primary school agriculture science competition with our recently held awards ceremony, which was on Tuesday, 7th October. The division would have distributed a total of $132,000 in prizes, both to the individuals and to the schools involved. And some of the awards and in the various categories are as follows. In terms of food crop, first place went to Bethesda Government. In terms of nursery, Bethesda Government also top first place. In terms of pot and trough, Blackrock Government and Pembroke Anglican tied for first place. In terms of tools and equipment, Plymouth Anglican. In terms of composting, Bethesda Government. So we want, of course, to extend congratulations to the schools and all of the individual winners in the varying categories for this for the competition that was held over academic 2013-2014. For academic year 2014-2015, the division, of course, has undertaken to revise and to do an assessment of the primary school agriculture program, to ensure that, of course, at the end of the day, that we see it as an opportunity to engender a greater sense of knowledge, to pass on skills, to encourage young people to get maybe more meaningfully involved in agriculture. So that for 2014-2015, we have restructured the judging dates, and for that, for example, for our school garden competition, there will be 3 judging points, 3 judging dates, periods. The first is in November, the second judging period will be in February, and the third will be in May. This is in a view to ensuring that the schools and the individuals involved maintain their gardens during the entire course of the academic year, rather than we have a one-off judging period and then you find that the interest may wane. We also will have judging in areas like nursery, food crop, animals, record keeping, ornamentals, and of course orchard.
I want to share with you what would have transpired at the meeting with the Prime Minister. As you know, after 15 months, we were finally able to meet, and this was as a result of a letter which I had written to the Prime Minister, expressing my concern over the lengthy delay since our last meeting. And we met yesterday at the office of the Prime Minister. The THE team included the Secretary for Finance and Enterprise Development and the Chief Administrator. And the Prime Minister's team would have included the Minister of Legal Affairs, Minister Ramadan, in his capacity as Minister in the Ministry of Finance, Minister Barrett, and the Minister of Transportation, Mr. Stephen Cadiz. These ministers will obviously have been selected based on the issues which I had put on the table down for discussion. Now, before we even got into the various issues, I did raise with the Prime Minister the whole issue about the fact that we had not been meeting that commitment which was made to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and more so the people of Tobago, to meet once every 3 months. And I indicated to her that the credibility of the process and our own credibility were at stake if we weren't able to give the people the commitment that we will obviously meet regularly and have definite dates or definite times for this. She then committed to have a meeting with me in January of 2015, which would be about the 3-month window. And she also indicated that the cabinet will be meeting in Tobago in November, and that they will also be having a retreat. And she made an offer which I would have no problems in acceding to or responding to, where she offered that the cabinet will meet with the assembly. I think it's an excellent idea that members of the cabinet and members of the assembly could sit and meet and discuss issues and share concerns and hopefully come up with resolutions. So I think that there is now a little bit more predictability, at least with respect to our next 2 meetings and what would transpire. We then went on to look at the various issues. And when we went into the meeting, we tried to make sure that during this meeting, after the meeting, we could come out with something definite, something that we can say, yes, the objectives have been achieved or are likely to be achieved. So we tried as far as possible to be fairly rigid in the way in which we would have conducted the process. And with respect to constitutional and legislative amendments towards self-government, the Prime Minister indicated that she had recommitted, or she was committed to the self-government for Tobago. And I then made the point that if we all committed to self-government for Tobago, then there's agreement on the what, and the only challenge now is the how. And I indicated to her that in the Tobago context, we had come to the conclusion that the best way to treat with it is to treat with it together. Instead of adopting a silo approach as has been happening over the decades, where each entity attempted to do things on its own and maybe claim all the credit, we operated on the philosophy that if we all do it together, no single entity can claim it. And therefore, I recommended to the Prime Minister that we will be prepared from the Tobago perspective to make every effort to bring the major parties which participated in the Tobago House of Assembly, to bring them together for a meeting with the central government comprising representation from the government side and the opposition side. The Prime Minister did not seem averse to the idea. However, she said that she will discuss it with her cabinet, and when we meet in November, she'll be able to give me some indication as to what that decision should be. But I think this is an excellent opportunity which we as leaders should grasp, because it does provide us with a process which could enable us to achieve the objective without anybody losing face or anybody being accused of wishing to take undue credit. The incursion by central government into the areas devolved to the Tobago House of Assembly under the 5th schedule. And I think this was very interesting, because the Prime Minister made a statement, and I want to quote her because she did make the statement at the meeting and she repeated it at the press conference. I will not condone illegality, and I will not support incursion into areas under the 5th schedule. When I indicated to her what was happening in Tobago with respect to what I consider to be the blatant undermining of the powers of the Tobago House of Assembly by the Ministry of Tobago Development, she indicated that that was a surprise to her. She was not aware of it, but she's willing to do the investigation and, if necessary, to take relevant action. I think that all of us in Tobago are aware of the incursions. They have not been secret. And if the Prime Minister wishes, I'm certain that we can provide her with tangible evidence of that incursion. And I'm hoping that she would obviously respond according to the statement that she made and repeated, that she will not condone illegality and she will not support incursions into areas under the 5th schedule. With respect to the improvement to the Arthur N.R. Robinson Airport, Minister Keeley has indicated that they're now in the tendering process, and that by maybe mid-late January, work should start. There's a 40-week timeline, and the idea is to have it ready for the start of the season. I indicated to him, of course, that we have a situation where the tourism sector, after being in the doldrums for quite some time, is now on the upswing. And it will be very tragic if we have a situation where, now that Virgin is back online, British Airways willing to do another flight to Tobago, we're getting Apollo coming back out of Switzerland, we're getting we're getting interest from the United States, interest from Canada. We have our people now. I think the team, Mrs. Celestine, and her team are now in Austria, and I think they're moving on to Switzerland, and then they go on to the world travel market. And the information, I spoke to Mrs. Celestine today, and she's saying the feedback is quite positive. So it will be very tragic if after all of that we have a situation where when they arrive in Tobago, they are deterred by the lack of quality in our airport. So that is the commitment that we've had, and we hope that that commitment can be met. We did not agree on the area of Tobago House of Assembly representation on state agency. And I'd like to explain to you my position and the Prime Minister's position. My position is that the Tobago House of Assembly does not have to and does not wish to be represented on all state agencies. But we believe that there are some state agencies which, because they impact so significantly on the development of Tobago, and because some of the decisions that they take obviously would need THE input if those decisions are to be as effective as possible, that the idea of THE representation should in fact be seriously considered. I also pointed to the fact that this is the first time that I know of where there was no THE representation in some of these agencies. Some of the agencies about which I speak would be agencies like the Port Authority, the Airport Authority, WASA, TNTEC. You know, these agencies where their work impacts so significantly on Tobago, and sometimes the agencies don't necessarily make the right decisions simply because they don't get the right input coming out of the THE. And a distinction has to be made between THE representation and Tobago representation, because the decision-making authority in Tobago is the Tobago House of Assembly. The Prime Minister's position is that her administration is prepared to do what is mandated by law. Anything that is not mandated by law, they would use their discretion. The only positive aspect is that she did ask her officer to investigate the question of tradition. And I do not know if she recognizes that in some of those areas, this is the first administration that would not have had, given the option for THE representation, whether that will influence the decision. But we did not agree on that one. Additional modes of funding, discussions are going on with the Minister of Finance, and those discussions are quite positive at this point in time, so I did not go into too much detail with the Prime Minister. Strategies for the revitalization of the Tobago economy. I made a request that we should reconvene the meeting involving the Ministers of Finance, Planning, Tourism and Trade with the public and private sector representatives in Tobago, where we can evaluate where we are with the whole question of the revitalization of the Tobago economy, because we have made some progress since the last meeting, but there is a need to revitalize, and there is not to evaluate, and then to take it from there. And then the challenges on the air bridge and the sea bridge. Minister Keyes was able to do a report on the sea bridge and to indicate that they are now looking at the possibility of replacement of the fast ferries, which have now reached the limit of the actual shelf life. One is 15 years old, one is 17 years old, and the shelf life of these ferries is normally 15 years. So that we are expecting that will be something that they will be looking at over the next couple of months, bearing in mind that the time lag between making the order for a new vessel and the vessel being built is somewhere in the vicinity of 2 years, so that even if the commitment was made, we're not likely to see any change on the 2 years. He did in fact speak to improvement in the port facilities at Port of Spain, where we will where for the Galicia, to ensure that the berthing facilities there are improved. And just on a sidebar, that the government is considering the walkover between the port in Port of Spain and, of course, the city. We didn't get too many details on that, but that was mentioned. The challenges on the air bridge came up, and I indicated the way in which the air bridge is having a negative impact on the Tobago situation, where there are hundreds of commuters being stranded. And I made the point that a distinction should be made between those people who have to travel, and I'm speaking here of residents in Tobago and in Trinidad, and those people who want to travel. And sometimes it might be possible, or we have to look at whether we cannot have different approaches for those who have to travel from those who want to travel. Because people who want to travel might be willing to pay higher fares, have special charters and so on, so that we still maintain a process which allows persons to come to Trinidad, more persons to come from Trinidad to Tobago, but does not deter the commuters from Tobago and from Trinidad who must travel for business, health, and other reasons. And this is something that they said that is also going to be under consideration. And as you're aware, Caribbean Airlines has been in discussion with the Secretary of Tourism and her team, also with the private sector. And the information that I'm getting from them is that there is, in fact, some headway being made, and they are hopeful that they can not necessarily resolve, but alleviate some of the challenges which we face. So I look forward to the next couple of months. In the first place, the meeting in Tobago the meeting in Tobago in November, the meeting between the officials of the THA and the cabinet, the meeting in January, and the response of the Prime Minister to my concern with respect to the incursions by the central government to areas devolved. But most importantly, I look forward to her response with respect to my recommendation that those involved in the constitutional legislative amendments talks in Tobago as a team should meet with the central government team to discuss the proposals and the way forward towards the achievement of self-government for Tobago. So those were the issues that we would have discussed, and we did have a press conference. I think the Prime Minister's report is on Facebook. It does not differ significantly from what I would have said. I think she would have reported quite accurately on what transpired at the meeting.
Can you please give us an update on the talks for internal self-government?
We're meeting again on Thursday with everybody, that is the members of the parties and the representative of the Secretariat. And one of the main objectives we have at this point in time is identifying someone who can actually look at all the documents, all the bills, etc., and draft a bill or bills which would take care of the needs or the demands of the people of Tobago, right? So we are hoping and expecting that we can, meet with the Prime Minister and her team. We're hoping that we're going to get a positive response to that. But while that is happening, we, of course, are trying to further the process by translating the demands of the people of Tobago into the kind of draft bills or the kind of legislation which will give us the comfort level that those demands could be actualized.
Okay. Is there any timeline on this?
Well, on Thursday we would know, because we have to identify somebody, and then that person will have to look at all the documentation. Because you see, there have been so many bills that have been put there in the past. That is my opinion as a lay person. I'm not a legal mind. It might not be as challenging as it would have been in the earliest to come up, because it might be amending an existing draft rather than having to do over the entire thing. I do not know. But it has to be done within months rather than years.
Dr. Baker yesterday called the process by the THA a sham in terms of the whole question of Tobago's autonomy and the autonomy organization. He called it a sham. He said the Tobago House of Assembly acted illegally, and also the use of THA funds it did not sit well with him. He also made reference to a letter he wrote to you in April of 2013 where he wanted to speak with you on the question of Tobago's self-government. And he said you replied in July and you didn't. It seems to be a bit of political football on the question of Tobago's autonomy.
Let me just make the point clearly. There's something that transcends politics. And this is serious business. And when we're dealing with serious business, I don't want to get involved in pettiness and tomfoolery. The people of Tobago has got to understand that the Minister and the Ministry of Tobago Development are creatures of the Prime Minister, not creatures of the Tobago House of Assembly Act. The Tobago House of Assembly Act mentions the Prime Minister, the Minister of Finance, and the Chief Secretary. Those are the people that are mentioned in the Tobago House of Assembly Act. So therefore, the Tobago House of Assembly Act accepts the fact that whosoever the people of Tobago decide should be Chief Secretary of Tobago is the person who is responsible for the management of the business of the people of Tobago. Not anybody that the Minister of the Prime Minister put as Minister of Tobago Development. Because you can put anybody as Minister of Tobago Development. Just 2 weeks ago, Minister Peters was Minister of Tobago Affairs. You know that? So when Minister Baker speaks, Minister Baker cannot speak to me as Chief Secretary on behalf of the central government on Tobago business. Section 31 is clear. The Prime Minister and the Chief Secretary shall meet to discuss matters, not the Prime Minister and anybody else. So that when I speak for the Tobago House of Assembly to the central government, I speak to the Prime Minister. Secondly, the Minister of Tobago Development is supposed to deal with matters under Schedule 6 and some matters under Schedule 7. The inference there is very clear that the Minister of Tobago Development might be the only minister who is not really supposed to interfere in anything having to do with Schedule 5, because he is in effect put there to treat with the business of the central government with respect to Schedule 6 and 7. The Prime Minister brings to the meeting the Minister in the Ministry of Finance. The Prime Minister brings to the meeting the Minister of Legal Affairs. The Prime Minister brings to the meeting the Minister with responsibility for transportation. You know why the Prime Minister doesn't bring the Minister of Tobago Development to the meeting? Because the Prime Minister knows that the Minister of Tobago Development has no business in Tobago House of Assembly business. Because the Tobago House of Assembly Act also says very clearly that ministers of government and secretaries of the Tobago House of Assembly should have discussions on matters related to their particular divisions or ministries. There is nothing in the Ministry of Tobago Development that gives the Ministry of Tobago Development that power. And let me just say a second thing. The Minister of Tobago Development has the effrontery to tell the Tobago House of Assembly that it cannot spend Tobago House of Assembly money to deal with Tobago House of Assembly business. But in the same breath, I heard him, he is going on another round of discussion. Whose money is he using? So the Ministry of Tobago Development, that is not supposed to interfere in Tobago people business, and not Tobago people, Tobago House of Assembly business, is using Ministry of Tobago Development money to interfere in Tobago House of Assembly business. But the Minister of Tobago Development is telling the people of Tobago that the Tobago House of Assembly cannot use Tobago House of Assembly money to deal with Tobago House of Assembly business.
Thank you for tuning in to another Tobago House of Assembly's Post-Executive Council media briefing for the week ending November 1st, 2014.